boxes, those other items are pretty quick.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of controversy.
there's no quick long one except you. Even Black Desert's not gonna be that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be really,
Yeah.
wouldn't think.
Everything else RC, why would they care?
Yeah.
But sometimes they surprise us.
Yeah.
You never know. Box of chocolates.
We probably care more about that since it's right next to us than any of the others. Is it worth at least standing up to the commission's? So what was the change from the thing that's raised? We just want to make sure that the commission knows, there's sensitivity to what buildings look like right there.
I know Jerry, but will you remind me your name?
Miyahara.
No.
Last name? Oh, Scott Stowell.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. I couldn't remember.
Scott Stowell.
Okay. I'm like, I know Jerry, but. Okay,
And then Greg MacArthur will be here.
we'll be here as well. Okay. I'm just kinda, we have a sign-in sheet in the back, but,
You want me to sign in?
sure, that'd be great. But there's lots of people that forget. It's not in the most convenient of spots.
Our friends are back.
Sharon,
Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
did you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. I pushed all the right buttons. Thank you.
You did. I knew you could do it.
Oh, you have more faith in me than I do. Thanks.
So we're just gonna ask you to approve it contingent on doing that. Okay. So hopefully you guys moving forward with that discrepancy, let us convene, when we don't convene since the plans to make sure that they're okay with that discrepancy, and then we won't bring it forward until that's been done. That's great. That's great. Okay. Thank you. We need to put that on Sunset Land. We need to do an agenda for Sunset Land.
It's usually the first Tuesday of the month. I don't know if we want to wait till the first Tuesday of the month, which would be August.
Yeah,
So,
we'll talk to Chuck and see what he wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's more in charge.
he's the chair.
So we're here, we could hear you guys in Zoom call.
You can hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, she heard us too, so, yeah.
Is this working?
I just need to hit
Okay. Just
that
wanna make
button.
sure.
I just didn't want to do it yet,
There, yeah.
so.
Okay, sweet.
but
And
as far
Sharon,
as I
this
can
is
tell-
Scott. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Scott, we
Okay,
can hear you.
Perfect.
Okay, sweet. So I told Scott that he's just gonna leave this, so then that way Pam can always have access
Okay.
to speak, so that way he doesn't have to.
Okay. YouTube, do I need to
No,
push?
Scott's
No,
got
no,
that.
He's got that
Yep,
too?
we got
Okay.
YouTube.
Okay.
Zoom's up and running.
Nice.
I let him know that only let other people talk if it's during the public hearing. Other than that,
Right.
he could just ignore
During the
them
Black Desert.
unless you want specific.
Yeah, unless they call him. Okay.
So,
And we have some letters. I'll give
sweet.
Dave that. and
Yeah.
He can,
When Dale comes,
read
just let
them.
him know that we're just gonna leave it
Everything's ready.
as that. So
Okay.
that way Pam can chime in whenever she wants
Okay,
to.
okay.
If you guys are
No, that's fine.
good with that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
We can use all of our documents on this one.
Okay.
to show, so that she can stay up. Okay. Oh, nice. Awesome. Okay, you want me, you already paid this one? Okay, I'll just scan it, okay. It might be easier to use the land use map, but I just, for attachments, they can't show where. But it might be easier to. If you go back to the ivins.com, you can hit the land use one.
That really doesn't copy well.
No, by the time you blow it up so that people can see it, it's fuzzy.
Just do this. Feel like the weatherman. Just do the zoning map.
Yeah, and just leave it up. And then that second tab up there has all the other attachments then, the planning commission one, that one? Oh, that's good. Well,
Yeah, well, the map.
it's on the, that is,
You expecting anybody else on Zoom?
Just
So,
listening.
so if we just have Scott lead after the public hearing, using the setting to where Pam can interject whenever she wants, are you okay with that?
Yep, I'm okay with that, yeah. There's more than one public hearing, there should, right? It's all the preliminary plan should have them. And actually, H is not either.
But most of them,
Yeah.
he just was getting this ice and laying it for start making. So, okay, well, I'll just let him know.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
Yeah.
thanks, Mike.
where am I at? Right here?
And I just want to show you, so you've already had your public hearing on SIPA?
Yes.
That people sent letters in? Just,
Yeah, and I've reviewed them all.
I mean, you don't have to read it. Just say we have some for that. And then these are 2 recordings that just need signed after.
After.
So I'm just gonna send them here, but I don't want you to forget.
Just so you're clear, you've already had the public hearing.
Correct.
So that's happened, they haven't changed their application, they haven't done anything to change it. We're just looking at different options underneath that application.
The problem I have is this, the fact that, this is zone change. All the stuff that they submitted, really, they didn't have to submit for zone change. You know, I mean, the zone change, it fits what we've designed as a city to go there, so. Yeah,
So what they've given you is above and beyond what they've asked for. So either way, approve or deny, I think it needs to move forward tonight.
okay. Are you, what was the other one? This one. This is short-term rental.
I'm just going to give you, we're probably not gonna go too far into that tonight because of the time, but it will be an introduction to that topic.
That one got me fired up. Here we are again. Oh, more restrictions. Wasn't that the point we come up with that designation? Was to have a point that said we could do that?
Well, like Scott said, he like, if we don't deal with it completely, to at least put it in the resort area. And
Which it is.
right, yeah. Right, but completely take it out of neighborhoods
I'm
as an
not
overlay.
for that. But anyway. Okay. So far, we don't even have a whole group yet. And Bob's gonna be late, so.
5:23, we haven't heard from Derek or Don.
The dog, no.
Also, so you're not surprised, Black Desert has some, sensitive land issues, but we're gonna be asked to approve a contingent to those being resolved through
Half's nervous. Oh, there's the other half.
Still got one short.
Pam's up here. And there's Derek. So we're good. He said Bob's good to late.
How you doing, sir?
Good, how you doing today?
Good. I'm not sure I'm ready. Okay. Welcome you to the regularly scheduled Ivins City Planning Commission for July 5th, 2022. Just as a reminder, make sure you turn your phones off so we don't get any interruptions, if you would, please. And I didn't ask, but are you up for the flag? And I think it's your turn, so. Okay. We do have a quorum tonight, although it looks kind of odd. We have Pam Guardial on Zoom, and oh, Bob just made it. Thank you, Bob. So we're good, and everybody's here. So we'll continue on to the flag salute invocation given by Derek Larson. Please rise.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful for the chance that we have to meet together tonight to discuss the business of the city of Ivins. Father, we would pray for thy blessing to be with us, that we might be able to make decisions that are wise, decisions that will benefit the citizens of Ivins. We'd pray that we might also be able to understand other people's opinions and views and make decisions that work for everyone. We are thankful for the place that we live. We are grateful for our first responders and all they do for us. Thankful for our neighbors and for the beauties that we enjoy in our city. Please help us in preserving these and help us in growing the city in a responsible way. We pray for these things, Father, in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, disclosures. We'll start with you, Pam.
No conflicts.
Okay. Derek Larson.
Just the same disclosure with Black Desert.
Okay. And Morris.
No conflict.
And Commissioner Clifford.
No conflicts.
And there's no conflicts for me this evening. Okay. We are going into a public hearing. We don't have as big a crowd as we've had in the past, but just a reminder to keep decorum if you're speaking, be respectful, and do those to everybody when you're up at the mic. Please, when you do approach the mic, name and address, and then present your case. I will probably time, it just depends. It doesn't look like we've got too many here, so, but I don't want them to run on, so. Okay, so we'll start with 3A, public hearing regarding the current land use and zoning amendment located at approximately 1500 East Black Desert Drive, north of the Horse Roundabout. Land use from low-density residential to resort commercial, and zone amendment from RA5 residential agricultural, minimum lot 5 acres, to resort and resort commercial. NLaw LLC owner, Stephanie Nast, applicant. You're up, Mike.
Okay, so this zone change application is for the area of Black Desert that adjoins the Sitla 120 property.
Well, it doesn't
It's-
exactly join. It's at the north.
That little piece of the private
Yeah.
land that was,
Yeah. So it's this parcel that's next to the Sitla 120 property.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So the,
It's actually.
so that identifies the address, because we do not have an address yet. We've identified everything on this parcel as that location. And so the specific request is for this parcel on the southeastern portion of it, as per the application. They're asking for resort commercial. So the uses that would be there would be supporting the hotel that is already underneath the conditional use permit. And so they're asking for a zone that is consistent with the zoning that they have there in support of what's already been approved.
Okay. Would the applicant like to speak on that as well? I would like to give them an opportunity.
Patrick Manning, applicant. Thank you. Just wanted to give you a little bit of why is what we're doing here. It's resort commercial, but this is on the far, the plan on this is the far west adjacent to the Sitla property would be the new home practice facility for the Utah Tech, formerly Dixie State University, men's and women's golf team. It's, as you come down across from the roundabout and the lava rises in elevation quite high. And then as you get down closer to the west side, it dramatically just falls off about 30 feet. And so down in the bowl, if you will, again, the west side is the short range game and their locker rooms and training facility, fitness, that sort of thing. And then further east, closer to the roundabout, is our golf maintenance area and our delivery and distribution system center so that we can bring 18-wheelers up Red Mountain Drive and drop off there at this area instead of them coming up Snow Canyon Parkway around the roundabout and into Black Desert into the main area. We're trying to keep 18-wheelers off of the parkway, out of the roundabout, and off of the project itself, and keep them all the way to the west and coming off Pioneer. So I just wanted to make sure you all understood what we're trying to accomplish there isn't more density or units or anything. It's just supporting and to make room for the golf teams.
Okay. Now, why was this not, was this just something that's changed over time? Because that wasn't approved, or it wasn't changed originally?
Yeah, so originally we were not anticipating the golf teams coming to us and asking us if we could create a space for them and to make it their home course. And also, we hadn't contemplated how to handle laundry and how to handle deliveries for the restaurants and things like that. So we just found that on the west side and a good way to keep them out of the roundabout and out of the main part of the project.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Patrick. All right, we will open this up for public hearing. Again, please keep decorum appropriate. And all those who wish to approach the mic and speak to this, again, state your name and your address. The hearing is now open.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Hope you all had a safe and happy 4th of July. I'm going to read my notes so that I stay on time.
Name and address.
Sharon Barton, 571 Mesa Vista Road. And I'm going to read my comments just so I do follow the right procedure and I don't run over time. I am not in favor of approving or recommending a concurrent land use and zoning amendment. The application itself is very confusing and appears to be inaccurate. Earlier today, I sent all planning commissioners an email outlining my concerns. This afternoon, I realized I had made an error in my email and sent out the correction to all of you in an email. Now it doesn't sound like I made a mistake, but the confusion lies in the description of the location of the land. 1500 East Black Desert Drive, north of the Horse Roundabout. In referencing the Ivins City Transportation Master Plan roadways, there is no Black Desert Drive, and the proposed location of land does not appear to be north of the horse roundabout. The application was submitted by NLaw LLC, Stephanie Nast, applicant. However, the zone map and the land use map are listed on the agenda as the BDR zone map and the BDR land use map. I would like to recommend that due to the inaccurate and misleading information presented by the applicant, that the rezoning request be declined. Later tonight, the Planning Commission will be continuing a discussion on the rezoning request by Rise LLC. This discussion should take place first, and then if NLaw and LLC so wishes, they can resubmit accurate information at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you.
CJ Koharchik, 109 South Puerto. I too was confused by the material that was in the Planning Commission agenda, the description, and the associated maps. I came here tonight prepared to talk about the folly of trying to put a hotel in a wash, because that was the only place I could imagine that was north of the horse roundabout that perhaps was not already, something else. And so I think also that there needs to be a much clearer description of where this parcel is before you can get informed public reactions, good or bad. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael Cook, 101 South Padre Canyon Drive. Thank you for hearing us this evening. Appreciate your efforts. I saw Patrick's plan about what I think he's talking about, and I asked to see the road that goes down through the Sitla land. I haven't seen that yet. So I'm kind of supporting what's been said here tonight. I think we need to see a little more from you, what you have planned to the south of what you showed us. He was very nice to put together a public information program, and I appreciate that very much. But I do support a little more information so that we know where that road goes, how the semis are coming up and everything. I think that makes sense. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, David Andrews, 307 South Puerto. I was at the first meeting, and it was totally not a meeting. We left her not knowing anything. And it sounds like this meeting has started out the same way. I don't know who is in charge of this, but I know you received some good emails on it, what to do, how to lay it out. And we're still coming here, and we're going to leave in the dark one more time. So I don't think this meeting should go on. I think you people should clear things up to where when we sit out here, we're all educated people. We can understand language, but we don't understand what you people are saying. We don't understand what you people are saying. So we need some help, and I think maybe you need to start over. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Yes, we have two people on Zoom. If either one of you are interested in making comments, please push the raise hand button at the bottom.
Okay.
I am not getting any response at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One option to consider, as I look at the map, I understand that 1500 East Black Desert Drive, there's a road dedication plat, but it may not show up on maps anywhere for people to locate. It is located north of the horse roundabout, that street. But as I look at the map, I think I would have described it as the southwest corner of the Ivins portion of Black Desert Resort. I believe the information as far as NLaw LLC as owner is accurate based upon the development agreement. Stephanie Nast is simply a representative of that group and signed the application. And perhaps, I know on a written notice that's published in the paper, you don't publish a map, but on our website, it'd be nice to have a map. Well, that kind of outlines it there, yeah.
Yeah, that's what was attached to it.
Okay, that was what was attached to it, so that helps. But it is, due to the lack of addresses in the area, it's hard to describe, but personally, I think hearing and reading the comments, I think I might have described it as the southwest corner of the Ivins portion of Black Desert Resort. Anyway, so an option would be to, if you want to continue to take public comment, is not to close the public hearing, continue the public hearing, send out a more detailed notice, and then continue the public hearing next meeting, and then have your discussion. But I don't think you should go on to B for discussion and consideration until you've determined if the public hearing is going to remain open or not.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that, because obviously that's been the biggest concern here, is that the description, nobody understood the description.
Yeah.
What have I got as a consensus here with the commission? Are you guys feeling the?
In addition, I think it would be maybe nice to show potentially what the connection will be to the rest of the property, the road and buildings, or what's anticipated. Oh, it's just a zoning change, so you don't have to have that, but
Yeah,
that would
it
be
is
nice
just
to-
zoning.
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to move that we table it till the next meeting and properly address the property.
A better description for it. Okay, do I have a motion for that?
I move that we do that.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Clifford and a second from Commissioner Guardiola to table this for 2 weeks in the light to get better description of where this is actually located and how it fits into the project. So this will be up for public hearing again in 2 weeks. Can I get a vote on that? Commissioner Guardiola?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Commissioner Morris?
Nay.
Get you?
Nay.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
And it's a go for me too, so yes, for me. Okay, moving on. Now what did I do here? There we go. So we will skip B because that was connected to A, so we will skip to C. Discuss and consider approval of Vista final plat located approximately 145 West, 100 South. Sally Jensen, owner applicant. This will be you, Mike.
Yes, this is the final plat application for Vista subdivision located off of 100 South Street. TRC is reviewed and staff recommends approval. Since the previous meetings, we've defined by easements the turnaround a little bit better. And it's consistent with what was done preliminary. We just got the easements in place and it's recommended for approval. It's also surrounded by the zones surrounding it are C1 and also RE 12.5. And the zoning's consistent with what's been approved.
So this is the one where it had an existing home at the front and we're subdividing the back half of the lot, correct? So, yes, okay. Any questions from the commission?
No, I have none.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Guardiola, or, sorry, Commissioner Guardiola.
I answered anything. I've been called worse. Mr. Haycock, will you please share with us the elements of the TRC review?
So yeah, TRC has already reviewed both the engineering, the drainage, the zoning requirements. Parks is reviewed, police and fire have all reviewed. And we've made adjustments throughout the process, like shortening the road for better fire department access. There's some on-site drainage that was added because of the drainage study, and also easements to connect the utilities in the right places.
And who is reviewed for compliance with the general plan, other elements?
So the zoning is consistent with the general plan.
Yes, and what about the other elements of the plan?
Yes, I do agree. It's consistent with the general plan too.
Can you talk about those, please?
So the original application was for higher density. Through the process, we've whittled it down to these 3 lots. And so that's more consistent with parts of the general plan on density and buffering.
And open space, sense of place, those kinds of things in the plan?
Yeah, we don't address 100% of the general plan at one time, but it meets the ideas and the parts of the plan that are, so there's not a subdivision that's 100% meets all the elements of the general plan. This one, the zoning meets the general plan. The general plan is under review, and we can look at changing some elements if they're not liked, but I think for the most part, the general plan we paid attention to it during the whole process. This is the final plat. Everything has checked the boxes, and it's time to move it on.
Thank you, Mr. Haycock.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, yes.
I will indicate that most of those questions were addressed also at the preliminary plan. And the purpose of the final plat is to make sure that it conforms with the approved preliminary plan, which it does. I will mention for open space, the zoning for single-family residential really determines the open space. There is no separate requirement that the subdivision itself provide open space or playground areas and things like there is for multifamily projects.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Clifford.
Mike, isn't this pretty much standard flag lot that we're breaking up?
It's the flag lot rules were reviewed, and it meets the ordinances for flag lots.
Okay. So, this isn't going to impact street parking, there's enough room for the driveway and all that?
Yeah. As per the zoning ordinances, each dwelling will be
Okay.
required to have 2 covered parking spots.
Great.
Or garages, sorry.
Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we approve the Vista final plat located at approximately 145 West, 100 South. Sally Jensen, owner and applicant.
Second.
I have a motion to approve Vista plat located at 145 West, 100 South. Sally Jensen, owner applicant, and I have a second by Commissioner Larson. Can I get a roll call? Commissioner Guardiola?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Commissioner Morris?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. Moving on to D. Discuss and consider applicant of Falcon Park preliminary plat located at 225 East, 800 South. Kevin Peterson and Jared and Megan Bringhurst, owner applicant. Okay? What you got, Mike?
Okay, so this is a legal non-conforming use along 800 South, next to Country Place and Country Villas subdivisions. So you can see that there's two dwellings on this parcel. The applicant wants to make it legal conforming. Two houses are now on one parcel. The fire department is approving a dry standpipe as an alternate means and methods to the turnaround requirement. Staff has reviewed and recommends approval.
Do you want to show
questions?
that turnaround that they're approving, how it works?
There is not a turnaround. Instead, a dry standpipe is being used as an alternate means and methods.
Okay, I misunderstood, sorry.
So instead of tearing down buildings, the fire department's access will be off the road in the south, and they'll have a dry standpipe to operate from, which the fire department, because of the situation of the buildings already being built, thought that it was safe enough.
And this is basically one large lot that they're trying to divide into two separate entities, basically.
Yeah, so they'll be legal conforming.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
is there a lot line adjustment as well? Or is it,
There was no lot line there before.
oh, so it's a new lot line and setbacks and all are fine?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, and I'm sorry that I can't see the screen that you have. I'm looking at the site plan. Can you describe, since I can't see what you're looking at, what is the access, the entrance into these two properties?
So basically,
Is it the same driveway?
it turns into a flag lot. Basically, the second lot will be a flag lot. And so, like I said, it was two houses that were previously built. The access from the original house will be off of 800 South, and the access for the north house with the property line basically turns it into a flag lot.
So the access runs all the way along, off of 800 South, all the way to the second lot in the back.
Yes.
So it's now, is that going to be an easement, or how is that dedicated, that path?
No, there's actual property lines.
Okay. Okay, all right, got you.
Thank you.
There are easements there for utilities, but the
Okay.
road itself is part of the parcel.
Okay,
Part of the back parcel.
Yes.
okay. Any other questions or comments? Do I have anybody?
Sure. I move that we recommend the final, let's see, what are we recommending? Preliminary plan, here we go, for the Falcon Park lot located approximately 225 East, 800 South.
I'll second. Oh, sorry. I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to recommend the Falcon Park preliminary plat located at approximately 225 East, 800 South. Kevin Peterson and Jared and Megan Bringhurst, owner applicant. Can I get a roll call vote on that? Commissioner Gardiel?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Commissioner Morris?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. Moving on to E. Discuss and consider recommendations of Vista Estates preliminary plan located approximately 200 West and Red Vista Drive, Sunshine 7 LLC and Bench 7 Series, owner Jared Madsen, applicant.
Okay, so this is Vista Estates. It is a 24-lot subdivision located next to the Red Mountain Vista Townhouse, and it's partially accessed through that neighborhood. It is located at 200 West. There's a future possible roundabout along Old Highway 91 that has been accounted for. At TRC, the roads were shortened to allow better access to and better building area to the lots at the end of the road. Lot 32 is not a buildable lot. It's for drainage only. We've made drainage notes on it, but we've also wanted to make sure we clarified that that is not a buildable lot. Any questions?
Is that a detention basin then, or?
Yes, detention basin is what will be located there.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I have a question also.
Yes.
I looked at that. Is it the reason they don't have to have a little keyhole or roundabout, so the roads are too short, the little stubs into the four?
So the fire department turnaround has the backup through the roads.
Yeah.
That's more for garbage services and a way out if you're going the other direction. So the hammerheads are complying turnarounds also.
So they're wide enough.
Yes.
Okay.
I assume there'll be no parking on those streets. I mean, those are 38 feet, so. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Guardiola?
I'm looking at the staff report, and second line from the bottom says designation of common areas and amenities available for use of residents, commercial area customers, and the general public. Can you speak to the general public part of this review?
So is this in the findings and analysis for?
Your staff report under purpose of the preliminary plan, second paragraph from the bottom of the page.
Okay. So if they are required, that's just generally speaking. So if they're required, we'll have identified them by this stage. This is not in a zone that requires those amenities. So if they were, they would be at this point added to the scope of work and identified on the plat.
So can you share, please, what kinds of amenities would be included for the general public in addition to residents and commercial area customers?
So if it was a mixed use or a residential multifamily, then there would be amenities like pools and that kind of stuff. That's in the high density land use, but not for this zone. So there's no amenities required unless you have to do an overlay that requires them.
So am I hearing you correctly that in those uses you just described, you're saying that residents and general public are synonymous?
No, what I'm saying is this zone does not require amenities. That is a general paragraph of the form. So if there was, you would know that they would have been identified at this point for those type of projects.
Okay, so your
Like we did for.
report then is looking at general statements rather than specifics to this petition?
This is describing the purpose of the general plan or the preliminary plan in general. It's just informational on what we would look for in subdivisions. That paragraph does not apply to this project.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other? Yes, Commissioner Larson.
Was the zoning changed on this parcel already?
Yes, that was done October, November timeframe. The zoning was changed to our 17.5.
Now, this borders condominiums basically, or, right? Townhomes?
It's a townhome project that has shared access.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought we voted against that on the city council.
Any other comments, questions?
Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we recommend Vista Estates preliminary plan located at approximately 200 West and Red Vista Drive, Sunshine 7 LLC and Bench 7 Series owner, Jared Madsen applicant.
Second?
Okay, I have where are we at? Preliminary plat, okay. Had to make sure I was on the right one. A motion for the preliminary plat from Commissioner Morris and a second by Commissioner Clifford for the preliminary Vista Estates preliminary plan located at 200 West Red Vista Drive, Sunshine 7 LLC and Bench 7 Series owner, Jared Madsen applicant. Can I get a roll call vote on that? Commissioner Guardiola?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Nay.
Commissioner Morris?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. Okay. All right, we're to 3F. Discuss and consider recommendation of Cavassa Phase 2 preliminary plot located approximately Evening Star Drive, Canta Development, Sitla owner and Lance Anderson.
Okay. Quavasa Phase 2 is located on Evening Star Drive. It is RE 43 zone. It's surrounded by lots that are RE 43 zoned also. The drainage on the south portion has been addressed in a drainage study and has been addressed on this parcel. Any questions?
Any questions, Commissioner?
Yeah, just what else?
Commissioner Clifford?
Yeah, just what else is required in the preliminary plan? You have, what are some of the other things that have come up? I mean, it looks like a pretty
Actually, this was a
interesting-
pretty straightforward subdivision. The drainage is the one thing that did come up, and engineering has looked at it, so this is consistent with the rest of Kayenta and what's been done before, so they're in the process, they know exactly what's being required, and they're submitted a pretty clean submittal to us.
Looks like a lot of terrain in there that they've up and down.
Yeah. Well, when the building permit's issued, we'll see the foot plan, and we have all the way till then for approval of where exactly the building goes on that type of terrain.
Okay.
So,
Any other comments or questions on that? Okay, can I get a motion?
Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Morris.
I move that we recommend the Quavassa Phase 2 preliminary plan located approximately Evening Star Drive, Canta Development, owner Lance Anderson applicant.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Morris, a second by Commissioner Larson for recommendation of the Cavassa Phase 2 preliminary plan located approximately Even Star Drive, Canta Development, Sitla owner, Lance Anderson applicant. Can I get a roll call vote on that? Commissioner Guardiola?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Commissioner Morris?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this is this is 3G. Discuss and consider recognition of Black Desert Golf Course Village preliminary plan located approximately 1500 East Black Desert Drive, north of the Horse Roundabout, NLaw LLC. Jared Marsden, Alpha Engineering applicant. Is this an extension of the other, or is this something different completely?
so this is a subdivision.
Okay.
We've already looked at the concept. Golf Villages is 186 units as part of the resort use in the table of uses. It is located on Black Desert Way and Weiskopf Way. There are 186 parking spots for the hotel and 76 parking spots required for the golf course. And that allows 33 parking spots as presented for employees that work at this location of Black Desert. There is a sensitive land discrepancy on this parcel. We are going to take it back to sensitive lands to make sure that they're clear on exactly what's approved and where these buildings are located. So we're asking that if you approve this subdivision, you approve it contingent on the sensitive land committee looking at it prior to final plating.
Okay. Okay, so do we understand that? So if we want to approve this, we need to approve it with the condition that the sensitive land community has to review it and approve. Everybody understand that?
Mr. Chair, why are we trying to approve it and then with the conditions rather than just waiting for the final?
That would be a question over there.
So the applicant has put it forward. They've had the review done. We just want to make sure that the buildings are landing exactly where they're supposed to. And if there isn't any overlay, they had access areas to disturb that they could disturb that they didn't. And so we feel that it's, if they have to disturb any, that they're low, they have allowable area to do that on their study. We just wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to look at it. We'll convene, we usually don't convene the sensitive lands committee until the first Tuesday of every month. And in respect to the application, we felt that we could move it forward and have that answer back to you prior to final plating.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. We've asked it whole for, and we'll need it also for when the zone change goes through in those subdivisions. We'll also have other sensitive land issues, so we want to present it to a sensitive lands committee for the future changes that they've made too. And it's good just to look over it and make sure that we're all, because this is a moving project,
Right.
that everything fits exactly where it's supposed to fit.
So the idea is that if we approve it now, based upon the Sensitive Lands Committee having to review it, it still comes back to us either way.
Well,
for
it will
us
not
to-
come back to you until it's compliant with the sensitive
Yeah,
land
exactly.
requirements.
So it still comes back here anyway, so at least this moves it forward is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Guardian.
forgive my confusion. If we approve it with a contingency, doesn't that stop it moving forward? Wouldn't it be better to have the review after the Sensitive Lands Committee has looked at all of this?
I'll try to answer that. I think my understanding of this is now we'll already have the preliminary handled at that point, and then when it comes back to us, it will be for the final, correct?
Yes.
And so, in other words, if we wait for sensitive lands, and that just puts them off a whole nother month or more until we would actually be able to get the preliminary and then still have to do the final plat. So it's just expedient in that situation.
Expedient for who?
For the developer.
The developer of the
It-
project.
Is there any indication that there's going to be a problem?
So speaking with Chuck, like I said, he believes that they have more area that they could have disturbed. And this is just making sure that everything's 100% in the disturbable area rather than making a guess on a map that says, yeah, they're close or they're not close. It just give them time to look at this plan. The Sensitive Lands Committee doesn't convene all the time. It's just at the request. And so we didn't feel like we should hold up the process because we don't have regular meetings, that we should put it forward to you guys for the decision and then convene in a timely manner to relook at the sensitive lands and make sure it all works.
I feel like if they had any indication that it was gonna get held up, they wouldn't do this, because then we'd go all the way back to square one again.
Okay, so it's pretty common to do this with a condition?
This is my first request, so.
Well, we've done it on final plats, conditioned on approval of a development agreement by the city council 2 nights later, usually. So we have done some conditional approvals. This might be the first time on a preliminary plan that I can recall recently. But final plats, sometimes a development agreement is going back and forth between attorneys, and we get it at the last minute, and so we say, you know, approve it, subject to the council approving it, because a different body approves that development agreement than you. So your step is done, subject to the other body approving their step, and then we take care of it. But
I think it's fine.
Okay.
No matter what, if the sensitive land board finds a problem, it stops.
Yes.
So it's not like you can
And it'll be.
skip it.
Yeah, and it'll be a fix before the final plat.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Morris.
I move that we recommend approval of Black Desert Golf Village preliminary plan with the Sensitive Lands Committee approval pending, located at approximately 1500 East Black Desert Drive, north of the Horse Roundabout, NLA LCC owner Jared Manson, Alpha Engineering applicant.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Morris and a second from Commissioner Clifford on recommending Black Desert Golf preliminary plan located approximately 1500 East Black Desert Drive, north of the house roundabout, NLA LLC owner Jared Madsen, Alpha Engineering applicant, based on approval of the Sensitive Lands Committee. Do I get a roll call vote on that? Commissioner Gardial.
With the finding of an inconsistent review process, I vote nay.
Okay, Commissioner Larson.
Aye.
Commissioner Morris.
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford.
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. Okay. So now we are to 3H. Discuss and consider recommendation for zone amendment for approximately 113 acres on the portion currently shown as R1-10, single-family resident, minimum 10,000 square foot lots, to be changed to R175, single-family resident, minimum lots, and the portion currently shown as RA5, resident, agricultural, minimum lot size 5 acres, to be changed to resort commercial, located approximately Puerto Drive and 400 South, School Trust Lands Administration, owner Jerry Miyahara. I think I said it right this time, applicant. I'm getting better. Okay, that's you, Mike. Now, I do have a question here on this. It says change the R110 was changed to R175. I thought that was...
It's already done.
Original application asked for some of these areas to be 7,500 square foot lots. They are no longer asking for that. So basically, what we're showing is the Sitla 120 parcel that's located south of Padre Canyon. It is, we discussed it previously in the public hearing. The landowners come back to us with some modifications to the request. If you are willing to look at the RMU zone, the residential mixed-use zone, they have given a project plan that is required for that type of a development. So what you're looking at is they're requesting it as RMU, but giving some other areas as additional buffers as shown. So you have the required buffers and then some additional concessions given by the applicant. And if you're okay with it, Jerry would like a few minutes to?
Absolutely, yes. So, yeah, if you've got that, I would.
You have
love to.
questions for me first.
Well, the way this is written is not correct with the map then, because it says we're residential minimum 10,000 square foot lots to be changed to R1 7.5.
So the original application, that is the original application. They are giving you some alternatives to that original application. You have choices underneath that original application. You don't have to give them the zone that they requested. They're giving you other options for you to look at to approve that are consistent. And we've reviewed those, what they've given us in the project plan, and we've moved it forward to you for your recommendation.
All right, thank you. Yes, I would love to hear from you if we could. State your name.
Jerry Miyahara, applicant, representing Sitla, the landowner. A lot has happened since our last planning commission meeting. A lot has gone on. We've had an opportunity to discuss in detail the feedback from that meeting, from the community and from the planning commissioners. We've worked with the city staff and Sitla to develop the project plan that has been brought for your review. As we've discussed previously, this process requires a balancing effort between the concerns of adjacent neighbors, the community as a whole, consistency with the city's general plan, and our fiduciary responsibility to the landowner, Sitla, and the teachers and students they serve. With that being said, let me walk you through the changes that we've made. First, based on the discussions and recommendations from the previous Planning Commission meeting, we are proposing a zone designation for the broader area of the site, the brown, to be resort mixed use instead of resort commercial. The allowed uses within these two zones are very similar, but there are a couple of differences that we believe address concerns previously expressed. First, the RMU zone requires a project plan, which we have submitted for your review. Second, the RMU zone requires a minimum of 35% open space, and I'll be speaking to that later. So based on the feedback relative to the borders of our project that are adjacent to existing neighborhoods, we've made the following enhancements. First, in the northern portion here, called out as P1, we will keep the existing R1 37.0 zone on that northern boundary. And although not required by the zone, we've memorialized in the project plan that these homes will be single-story with flat roofs. We will provide a secondary buffer to the 37,000 square foot lots in the proposed RMU zone with a minimum 10,000 square foot lots that are identified here in P2B. We will retract our previous request along the west and southwest boundary of the project of 7,500 square feet and keep the existing R110 zone in this area called P2A. We'll provide a secondary buffer to the 10,000 square foot lots in the proposed RMU zone with a minimum 7,500 square foot lots along the western boundary, called out here as P3. In Area 4, the vision is to continue the step down from the low and medium density homes to duplexes and single family cluster homes with average density range of 5 to 6 units per acre. The current plan is for this area to be the location of the central recreation amenity along with significant open space and community trails. In Area 5 here, a significant portion of this area will include the natural open space wash. Neighborhoods in this area are envisioned to be duplex, triplex, and fourplex homes with average density range between 4 to 6 units per acre. In Area 6 here, the boundaries are bordered by the open space wash in the western corridor on the west and northwest, and the lava fields on the east, and Red Mountain Drive in the city of Santa Clara to the south. With these buffer conditions and separation from existing neighborhoods, we envision our higher density homes here with average densities of 6.5 to 7.5 units per acre. And envision product types may include motor court townhomes, stack flats, and luxury townhomes. We're targeting an overall yield of 525 to 575 homes. On the 113 total acres would be an overall density of approximately 5 per acre. The traffic impact study has recently been completed by Horrocks Engineering and shows negligible impacts from the future residents of the Sitla 120 project to the intersection of 400 South and Puerto Drive here. In fact, with the completion of the extension of the 400 South to the future western corridor, these road improvements will actually provide many existing Ivins residents an alternative route to Snow Canyon that will be quicker, safer, and more direct. We believe that we've proposed a balanced plan that is respectful to the adjacent neighbors and the overall community and supports the business development and resort destination goals in the city's general plan. With the importance of planning a stable economic future for Ivins, we believe the future residents and guests of Sitla 120 project will provide an important consumer resource to support the future restaurants and shops at Black Desert Resort, as well as other locally owned businesses. Short-term rentals within the project will also assure that the city captures room tax revenues instead of that demand being filled outside of the city. At its very foundation, the approval of the zone change from the holding zone of RA5 to RMU aligns the city's vision as depicted on its general plan and land use plan of resort mixed use with a zone designation of resort mixed use. But there's much more to this spectacular property beyond codes and ordinances to consider. There are extremely special natural conditions within the wash and lava fields that warrants our best effort to not only preserve, but to be available and enjoyed for generations to come. With the RMU zone's 35% open space requirement, our zone approval will ensure that over 1/3 of this land will be open space and presents an opportunity to thoughtfully integrate parks, green belts, trails, amenities, and natural open space to deliver a project that will be worthy of the legacy of this special land. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, discussions from the council. Any questions, comments?
I've got a question.
Okay, Commissioner
Of
Larson.
the 35%, could you speak to how much of that will be undisturbed land, approximately? In preserving the wash and other.
So along with the next steps of this, as we've discussed in the development process, we will be studying in depth the boundaries and the FEMA requirements for that wash. So between the wash and the lava fields to the east is going to be a large portion of that 35%. But on top of that will be parks, trails, amenities that we will comply with a minimum of 35%, like I said, which would be 1/3 of that brown area.
Thank you. That answer it? Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Gordian.
Mr. Miyahara, as I look at your plan, could you talk to us? I noticed that in a number of places, it says the area will be eligible for short-term rentals. What do you project the percentage of this property to be STRs?
As we've discussed this before, a lot of this is projections. We have specific information from experience from Sitla and others in projects like this, and the range has been between 30% and 50% are actually active nightly rentals. But ultimately, the market is going to decide that. And, you know, I know that some have shared concerns of an oversaturation for nightly rental programs, and that will be, the market will dictate how much of that demand will be needed in the Sitla 120 project. And again, we think that there is significant undersupply of primary and secondary homes in the city of Ivins, and we have all the intentions that we are going to be satisfying that need along with the short-term rental.
Another question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Desert Colors. When we talk about the motor court, I drove out to Desert Colors and was shocked at the lack of quality, the haphazard environment, trash cans, and basically parking lots. That is not what we want in Ivins. Can you speak to what these motor courts are going to, what your image is of those?
Either one.
Scott Stowell.
Thank you.
Also with the applicant, and I'll try to address Commissioner Guardiola's question. Out at Desert Color, a lot of the density parking is provided through parking lots. That's not what we're doing. As I mentioned at the last meeting, a motor court townhome would be, all the parking would be in garages surrounding a motor court where access to those garages are provided. And then guest parking would be provided potentially, you know, in addition to the garages. So we would have more garages, less density, and less surface parking is what she's seeing over at Desert Color. And then, of course, we'll bring the detailed architectural plans and land plans back to the commission. You'll get a chance to vet each of those programs.
Yeah. Does that answer that for you?
It does at this point. If I may, one other question, and maybe this is just for staff, not just for staff, staff is amazing, but in fact, I think I will hold that question, not for the developer, but for staff. Thank you.
Okay. Let me inject a little here. So this project is actually going for a zone change. A zone change is typically judged upon how it meets our city plan, which it's actually on the plan that's what it is RMU. There's some other factors involved, and if I step out of line, Dale, please correct me. But the idea that they are bringing the entire idea of what they're going to do with this property is not required by them at this point. And that will all come as an approval later on down the road. So this is simply a zone change that we are looking at today, not approving any projects, any building, any construction, any roads, nothing. It is a simple zone change. So that I think sometimes we get out of kind of a little out of our realm there.
And Mr. Chair, with one caveat, with resort mixed use, they are required to file a project plan. And we've seen some that have chosen at the zoning stage to include a site plan or elevations. As you point out, that is not required. Right. What they have submitted as a project plan addresses the zoning issues, and so it's for you to evaluate if that's sufficient. I guess I have one question for Jerry. Tell me how this, if all of this is going to be available to the market for nightly rental, a hotel, as it were, which would comply with resort. How does this meet the definition of horizontal hotel that we talk about, like Black Desert, which, you know, has a management office on site and can oversee that these nightly rentals are complying with the rules of the homeowners association and the yards, and each property is not getting trashed or run down, or there's loud parties and things. Do you have an on-site management office and a central booking system that this all goes through?
Yeah, it's an important distinction. I know that we've used the term horizontal hotel, and I think it may have caused some confusion that on the previous meeting that these units will be individually owned. They'll be purchased and then made available in a pool for short-term rental. But there will, in fact, a requirement that there will be a single management company, a single booking company. It cannot be done through Airbnb or VRBO. We will be controlling the single booking and the management along with the property management. So our plan right now is that we would provide an office space for on-site management for the nightly rentals. Again, a lot of this will depend on the ultimate amount of and volume of nightly rentals and that need. But our intention at this point is to absolutely provide on-site staff. And again, this will be through a single booking system and a single management company. So if there are issues, there'll be a single point of contact to deal with them.
Thank you.
Dale, if I could add too, that the HOA CCNRs are the documents that are enforceable by the homeowners association to make sure everybody's complying with rules, such as no activity in the pools past 10 o'clock or whatever, right? So all of those measures will be in place in addition to the kind of the centralized management of the project to ensure that any nightly stay event won't disrupt the community.
But those kind of vary by HOA. If this was Kayenta, then I know
We'll have a single
they're
HOA
going to
for
be
the whole
enforced. But if it's just a subdivision around, they aren't always enforced. They choose to not bother even to form HOAs sometimes, and don't want to take on the management and enforcing the rules and things. And so I'm glad to hear that you'll have an on-site presence and that there will be enforceability. Because that's my concern about, if this was just a strictly short-term rental with an Airbnb or VRBO scenario, is that properties getting run down, loud parties, rules being broken. And so my concern would be that that be addressed with your management system.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Jerry said, we would expect 70 to 50% of our homeowners to be primary homeowners. So we're as equally concerned about that nuisance as the commission is.
And so the on-site would actually also be the homeowner association as well as for the.
It may be the same, or it may be two people working together under a contract with the HOA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Clifford.
Chair,
Oh,
this is.
Hold on, Carter. Hold on. Sorry, just a minute.
Sure.
Go ahead, Commissioner Clifford.
Yeah, I got a couple comments here I'd like to bring out. A lot of the comments we got from the people both that were in the audience the last time this brought up, and then some of the emails we got kind of fall into like three categories. Well, you see some of the signs out there now, so. Water, we don't control water, so we have to go by what the Water Conservancy tells us. In fact, in talking to the mayor today, this is going to, I guess, be changing in the next month, and they're going to take over total control of the water here in Washington. And people applying builders applying and all will go straight to them for the water. And so the cities are going to be kind of taken out of it. Now, is that a plus or minus? I don't know, but according to their plan and the plan that is going into place, they're spending quite a bit of money with the secondary water recapture, which is going to add quite a bit of capacity for all of the communities in Washington County. And so according to what they show, and that right now they feel very comfortable that if we even continue to have years like we're having right now, we will have, with both that water, the reclamation water, and conserving of water for the communities that are in Washington County, that we will have sufficient water. Now, if that turns the other way, then it gets worse, then they will have to be the one who takes first action, because the cities will be out of it. Applications for water will go straight to them, and there's rules as to how they can get access to the water in that pool, and it puts a pretty stiff responsibility on the builder. If they buy water rights or achieve water rights for their projects, they have a year to exercise those rights, and then if they don't, they lose it, and they lose a chunk of change that they had to put down to secure that water. So they think that's going to add quite a bit of pressure is the wrong word, but at least consistency from community to community in Washington County. So right now they're feeling reasonably comfortable with the water for the next 5 to 10 years. And we have a lot of capacity that in fact is not even being used. If you drive out to Sand Hollow and look how much water is out there, it looks impressive, but what's impressive is that there is twice as much water out there that you don't see, which is underground. So that water is available too. If the lake actually starts to draw up in the reservoirs, there's a lot of water that's under that that's also available to be taken from the aquifer. So under worst case, they could tap into that water as well. So as far as the water is concerned, I think we're optimistic that we're going to be bringing roughly 40% more water into use with the recapture of water that's starting to occur with some of the projects that we're doing and are being done throughout the county. So that was the water issue. There are a lot of people who are saying, well, the general plan is changing, therefore we should just delay this until the general plan gets changed so that we can outlaw this project, which is basically what they're asking for. Let's delay it until we can find that we really don't need all these extra places for people to stay and whatever. These people have come to the city in good faith, and they are being measured against today's law. And our responsibility as a planning commission is to uphold the law. The law is the current general plan and the current codes and zoning. So they have come, they've conformed with the law and the law that it is today. So if we go and do a general plan review and change some things that perhaps could affect this in the future, you can't hold these people accountable because they're applying under today's law. So we're trying to keep the city legal and keep it from being sued. So we are bound as a community, as a planning commission, as a city council, as a mayor, as the attorney, to uphold today's laws. The general plan today calls out this area as in our land use plan as resort mixed use. That's what it is. And that's what they're asking for. So we really cannot deny them something that's in today's general plan as far as what we see happening in our community. And the plan under that zoning does call for the option of having short-term rentals. Now, you can say, well, do we have the responsibility then of being the conscience of the person who owns the land? No, we don't. It's they own this land, the people that are coming to us asking for this zone change. And we owe it to them to allow them to do it. Now, if it goes south, you know, it's their money that's up. And the people that are buying and doing these developments. And we are here to make sure they conform to our laws and our zoning, and that's what we're trying to do. So whether we personally like or dislike some of the things they're doing, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference, because we are trying to uphold the law. And that's what I feel we're trying to do, and it's what I feel we should do as far as this is concerned. So I turn it over to our city attorney. Did I say it correctly?
Yes, yes, they are, the word is vested. They are vested in the laws at the time of their application. And with a land use of RMU, really the only zone available currently at the time of their application was RMU. And so it's not like you have a choice of other zones to apply to this application. It conforms directly to the land use plan.
Commissioner Guardiola, I know you had a comment.
Yes, and Dale, if you would respond to this, I'm looking at the zone change application, and it says the proposed zone R175, RC. Can you tell me where RMU is on this?
Well, the Planning Commission has discretion to change it to what conforms. They initially were thinking of asking for resort commercial. That's what their initial application stated, but in meeting with staff, we informed them that the available zone is RMU, and that they may have to go through an additional amendment process to get to a resort commercial. And so they chose just to make the concession as Jerry did at the beginning of this agenda item, and say we are asking for resort mixed use, which is consistent with the general plan.
Okay, so a follow-on question to that, please, Dale, and that is the proposed zoning amendment map that I am looking at, where it says RC. Are you saying this is an obsolete map? Why do we not have a current one?
I'm kind of colorblind. Doesn't that map you have up, Mike, say RMU? So do you have
Okay,
brown?
so the one that was in the packet then has been updated. Am I hearing that correctly?
I'm not sure what was in the packet.
I see what you're
but
talking about.
what Mike just showed a brown area,
Look at,
and it was RMU.
Commissioner, look at project plan exhibit, isn't that the one? Yes, project plan exhibit, it shows the RMU.
But if you also look in the legend of the land use plan, I believe if you look at the land use for RMU, you'll only see one zone identified, and that's RMU.
Okay, well, I have that one. I also have two other maps, so that's why I was asking for the clarification. And Mr. Pullum, one other question, please, and that is, can you, I respect that as a community, we must have a balance between a tax base to support our being a community and being one. Can you talk about what Sitla's expectations are for return on investment of any property they sell to any kind of developer?
I cannot, I'm not the applicant.
If there is one thing I do know about this, I can't answer that, but my understanding is that Sitla is actually somewhat involved down the road, because they will reap some of the benefits of the, nightly rentals, of the revenue of the nightly rentals. Am I correct on that?
Right.
So they're not out at the beginning. They will actually retain some portion of it because they will get some revenue off of that. Yeah.
Okay, so if I may, Mr. Miyahara said at the beginning of his presentation this evening that he had the authority to represent SITLA. So with his SITLA hat, I would like him to address that, because as I'm reading through the material, is there to be an ongoing ROI to SITLA, or is there a one-time purchase of the land from SITLA? Could you address that, please?
Actually, yeah. State your name.
Sure. So my name's Greg MacArthur. I work for SITLA. I'm representing the landowner, SITLA, this evening. So to answer that question, your first question was what is, as, let me see if I can restate that. For SITLA, what is SITLA's intent with this land? So what is the return that's expected? Commissioner, was that the question?
Well, whatever your return on investment is between you and the purchaser. The question that I had is there an expectation that this is an ongoing ROI from you, or is this a one-time? Are you expecting ROI in perpetuity from this land?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Commissioner. So yeah, the expectation for SITLA, the agreement that was entered into, was basically both. First would be land sell of the property. So as they take it down, there would be a sell, and that benefits SITLA. SITLA gets a portion of those land sales, which in turn goes to schools and our beneficiaries. And then there would be an ongoing component as well. So whichever percentage of the lands or has that revenues coming in from the nightly rentals managed by that single HOA, which is a requirement by SITLA as well, that would be shared with SITLA ongoing in perpetuity as well.
So if I may, and thank you for speaking, if these properties were to be sold as single-family homes with no rental aspect attached, how does that influence the picture to SITLA?
Sure. Well, it'd be because of ongoing revenues, it would be a smaller amount to SITLA. One thing just to note, the agreement that was entered into with Rise Development quite a few, how many years ago was it? Was that 2018 was the initial? That agreement actually had higher density tied to it, and was more, had more revenue coming in for SITLA. As we've worked with Scott and Jerry on this, and as they've changed the zoning to be more of what the community wants coming from that previous planning commission meeting. The densities have gone down. The revenues for SITLA has gone down. Now, SITLA, as people know, we like to be treated as a private landowner in some ways, is trying to get the most money from the lands that we have, because what our goal is to bring in the most amount of revenue that we can for.
I believe that's ordered by the state legislature.
That's exactly right. We're mandated to do that. But from what we've seen with Scott and Jerry and this group, we are very confident in the product that they can deliver. And that's my job at SITLA, to watch the development partners that we have. And we actually really like what they've done. We think they've addressed some of the issues that have been presented, and we think that they will bring a good product. And by doing that, we have approved them coming to us saying, well, look, we'd like to have a little less dense. We'd like to have the extra buffer zone. We'd like to do these things. And we've agreed to that, believing that they will do a really good job doing that.
If I may follow up, I'm not quite sure I asked my question very well. Forgive me. First, let me say that I have met with Mr. Miyahara, and I do believe that these are quality developers. That is not, forgive me, my question. The question was, if this property were to be sold solely as single-family homes with no rental, nightly or otherwise element, how does that impact the remuneration to Sitla, please?
Thank you for restating, Commissioner. I apologize for maybe not being direct on that answer.
The fault was mine.
The answer to that would be less revenues for Sitla. The amount coming in would be lower.
So it would be a one-time fee, because if I were to buy one of those properties as a single-family home, I lived there, I would pay you your money up front, and then that would be the end of the income?
That is correct. So what you would be doing is buying from a developer partner like Rise Development, and then what they would be doing is sharing a percentage of that sell that they sell to you with Sitla. And if it was one-time revenues, so if you're to just parcel out the entire land in just lots and then sell those as one-time, then there'd be one-time revenues coming into Sitla. And then, yeah, so it would be smaller. Yeah.
Can I comment to that too? So my understanding is that there's two funds when we talk about schools, and this Sitla is obviously the school trust lands. It's for the schools. There's two. So you have, when you sell a piece of property, that goes into a fund that's designed for large investments, new schools, new pieces of property, or whatever else that schools need, and one-time purchases. Now, the other side of this, where you're talking about you're going to be getting a regular revenue based off of the nightly rentals, that would go into a different fund because that's reoccurring, and that would go more towards, say, teacher salaries or that kind of thing. Is that correct?
Actually, so those those ongoing revenues would come into a pool, and then they would be put into the same fund from sales.
Okay.
And then we have it's called Sitfo. It's our managing company. So all the revenues that would come in from ongoing leases, ongoing revenues, and from sales all go into one big fund, and then they're managed by a group.
Okay. Thank you.
It's just
Mr.
recurring
Chair,
revenue that gets
I'm
added every
still
year.
a little puzzled here, so thank you, Mr. Representative. So am I understanding, and I think it's wise management, that you would prefer to have this land provide you with ongoing revenue rather than a one-time payment?
Yes, Commissioner.
Right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other comments or questions on this?
Got a question?
Yes,
Good.
Commissioner
Dale, I don't know if
Larson.
you can speak to this or not, but as far as like our tax revenue for the city goes, what roughly percentage comes from property tax versus sales tax versus what new construction brings in?
I don't know the percentages, but if this did not include any short-term rentals, there would be no short-term rental or transient room tax. If there were short-term rentals and it was treated more like a hotel, then you get transient room tax off of those rooms that are rented. Even in a horizontal hotel aspect like Sentier is slowly developing, but they're developing homes, kind of a similar concept, but they will have a hotel on site, more similar to Black Desert. But as long as there's tax revenue being collected, and that's why we like the central management and the central booking, is we know that that those taxes are paid to the tax commission and we get our share. With pure individual ownership, and if they chose to do short-term rental, not only do we have the potential problem of nuisance and property running down in condition, we also don't receive any transient room tax. If they were to buy this as their own home, it depends on the nature of the home. Is this their second residence or is it their primary residence? If it's their primary residence, we get 100% of the taxable value. If it's a secondary residence and they've declared someplace else to be their primary, then they pay a discounted property tax rate here in Washington County. So I don't know what percentage all the revenues break down into, but.
And currently, a lot of our revenue comes from new construction at this point in time, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And so and my point in this is I think a lot of that is, and people are always talking about, hey, you just want money, but the point is if we don't find additional revenues to bring into Ivins when the building drops because we have no more land to build or things happen, our property taxes are going to skyrocket if we don't have other means to bring that in.
That was pretty visibly shown to the city council during the budget process, that we're very few years away from a bleak period. And either we bring in more in the way of commercial revenue or growth revenues, or there is going to be a significant property tax, and there could be both. There could be a smaller property tax increase depending on what the amount of growth or commercial revenue is. When it was projected out just on Black Desert, when that comes online, then that's what starts the line, the curve to then start to
going up,
to come back up, is when those commercial revenues kick in. And I've been here 18 years, and only 1 year did and that was long ago, was there a hold on the property tax. We didn't do an increase, we just held it at the last year's rate. But there's never been a property tax increase. Now look at inflation. Can you say that there's been no inflation during that 20-year period? You just look in the last 2 years and you can see how far behind the city is falling in its revenues. Because we're having to pay those higher costs caused by inflation. So that's not a good mix when you have inflation increasing costs of services and you have a flat tax rate.
So as I see this, as I see our community, we have dubbed it as being not only a bedroom community, but we've dubbed it as being a resort community. And what better way to bring in additional tax revenues than by those? I mean, we don't want manufacturing facilities out here. We don't want, that's not the type of revenue we want. That's not what fits with our community. So it only makes sense that this is what fits with the community to add to those revenues that we need. And just so I've read all your guys' emails, by the way. Don't think I don't. I read them all. And I get a lot of things where people are saying how the city's money hungry. Well, the city has to operate somehow or another. We have police, we have fire, we have staff, we have everything. And believe me, we make about as much money doing this as what'll pay for one family dinner. So that's what we make being up here. We're not making money. We're doing this because we love this community. I've been here for 30 years. So it's not a money factor. Am I right? So, and we don't get paid outside of this.
Sometimes beats minimum wage.
So
Raise.
yeah, he must got a raise. So the fact of the matter is we're not looking at this as a benefit for us personally. We're looking at these as benefits for our city and our community and how we can move forward. Yes, Commissioner Clifford.
Just to go extend that thought just real quickly. I think years ago, the last time the general plan was really reviewed again, I think the city was trying to balance and say, look, how do we survive? And they had choices of let's maybe bring in some commercial, let's build a shopping area somewhere and try to get the commercial revenue, or like you say, manufacturing. But they decided then, and we have continued to support that vision that we should build on our strengths. And our strengths out here have been, we have a great community with great views, and we have a very safe community, And it's a place people like to come and visit. I mean, you just look around and wow, it's a great place to be and visit. Now success, we are starting to get visitors. Success does have its downside when you get more and more people. But the city decided at that time that that's what they were going to do. And when we first moved here, I had just come from being a mayor up north, and this was so out of context because I had spent 8 years trying to get revenues from commercial manufacturing and retail in our city. And then come down here and say, we don't want that. We're not looking for retail and commercial. We have this resort. And I said, how in the world is this community going to survive? And I think we're starting to see the first test of it. But I think as a community, we have to look at the alternatives. A city has to have revenue to stay in business, and we are a business, unfortunately, providing support for services that all of you, all of us, take almost for granted. But you got to pay for it. And a part of the problem, well, we're going to talk about it next when we talk about affordable housing, but this can be and will be, I think, looking at the numbers, will be a great way. It's going to have some downsides, but would you rather have a resort or would you rather have a shopping mall in the middle of your community? And so you do have to make the trade-offs. And I think the people in the last few years that have been involved in the city and in the general plan and setting the vision have done a pretty good job and took a big leap, I think, in saying we were going to be a resort-based community. And we're seeing it start to happen. So
Okay.
buckle up.
Chairman.
Yes.
Just so I don't sit here so silent. I'm a short-term renter. I rent a cabin in Pine Valley short-term. I rent a room in my house short-term. It's been amazing. It's given me financial freedom, security in my retirement. People are going to have opportunities to purchase these homes and end up with property that's bought by other people. Now that's just good business. I rent my RV. Why let it just sit there, and because of my busyness, not able to go out, and I share it. Now, every report I get on a visitor, I read it intently. I find great satisfaction when I've shared Pine Valley with someone from Las Vegas. It's such a stark experience for them to go up there and see the deer, and they just list all the animals they saw, and it brings joy, and it feeds me. I will admit it. Not only financially. I mean, I'm a low renter. I rent a casita in my backyard, and that gentleman runs a horse venue, and it's $550 a month, and that's affordable housing for someone. So we can't deny that I mean, it would be lovely if this place looked like it did 27 years ago when I moved here, and had a dirt street out in front of my house, and when it would rain, I would just press the accelerator and the car would steer itself home through the mud ruts. But it's just gonna grow, and if we're anti-growth, I guess enterprise is next or something. We just gotta keep finding that next spot where there's no people. But once again, I see this a lot differently just because of my personal experience. But once again, I would never get my RV inspected every 3 months, but I have to because I'm a renter. I would never go up to Pine Valley 75 times last year to check the cabin, make sure everything's right for the next visitor. I mean, this is what these management companies do. I do it personally, but this property, they're not going to pay $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for something and just junk it. It's going to be maintained. It's a valuable asset to someone. And so the fear, I have renters across the street. I had the young women in my backyard. We're going to summer camp tomorrow. for the young women of Ivins 6th Ward, and they were tie-dyeing their little hoodies, and the police were putting the renter across the street in the back of a squad car and driving off. I mean, it's unfortunate, you know, those things are going to happen. We can't avoid them, but I just fully believe that to be anti-growth is not the solution.
I do have one more comment, and we need to get this wrapped up.
I have another comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Guardiola.
I know out of sight, out of mind, but thank you. I want to respond and elaborate on a couple of other points that I think are very important. And Mr. Colum, I appreciate, and Commissioner Doug first talking about the importance of obeying the law. We talk about due process. We talk about the oath that we have taken as commissioners. And again, in reading the comments from people, believing that there is an alternative motive. We are each here because we respect the rule of law, and that yes, the developers do have the right as property owners to adhere to that particular law. I do believe that the developers are good developers with good intent. There are two overriding issues that we as a commission need to consider, whoever the developer is, whatever the situation may be. And first of all, is that what we are doing with planning is creating a sense of community. Because at this point, we have lost that in a lot of the decisions and a lot of the developments that we have created. I have referred to that before. Are we a community, and are we bringing to that community those uses that allow us that sense of interrelatedness with each other? Transient people, no matter how lovely they are, do not contribute to that sense of community. And the second piece is, as we talked and the discussion earlier about the earlier general plan talked about becoming a resort community. I think we have more than reached the point that we must look at the implications and the cost. And I'm not talking financial, the cost of becoming a resort community, because we are in danger. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, talking to the Division of Natural Resources, we are loving our resources to death. And so when we are looking at financial tax base for our community, I would ask that we think about asking different questions. It is not just about manufacturing or STRs, but how do we respond to what we deem so dear that we don't want to exploit it at the cost of something that's having our taxes raised. The cost of loving our natural resources to death is very real. And as we have heard over and over again, people have said they have moved here because of the beauty. Well, we have to be stewards of that beauty as well as stewards of the tax base. Thank you, that's all.
Okay. And apologies, apologies, Commissioner Guardiola, but I disagree on the fact that this doesn't lead to community. I received several emails that talked about, and I was trying to find them here, but I've got so many, I'm having a hard time bringing it up. Talked about Sedona and the current travel is dying. But then you go in and read what it says, and it says exactly what we're doing. What they're doing to change is they are building systems to where the people that are traveling to the community become part of the community. How do you become part of a community when you're in a high-rise hotel in downtown St. George? You become part of the community when you're in the community. And I know this for a fact because I use a lot of Airbnbs. I did this in Tulum, Mexico, of all places. I had an Airbnb in Tulum, Mexico. We were in with the people of Mexico, and we had a fabulous time with my family doing that. We didn't go to one of the big resorts. We were in the community. Did the same thing in San Francisco, did the same thing in Phoenix, did the same thing in Park City. And it puts us in the community. We met people. We walk our dogs, and people are like, hey, you know, and we meet people from those communities. So this type of community goes to exactly that, making it a place where people can come to stay and be a part of the community instead of being shoved to the side. That is my opinion on this. We have beat a dead horse. We need to do something or move on, I think, unless there's any other comments. Okay, do I have a motion in either direction?
I'd like to move that we recommend the zone amendment for the 113 acres on, it's shown as, well, as it says R110, I'm going to read the whole thing here, to be changed to R175, no, excuse me, that was changed. You want me to just read
To
it exactly?
maintain, to maintain.
They'll add the additional layer of buffer along existing residential, and then the
Okay.
interior will be resort mixed use. I think that's adequate.
Okay. Sharon, did you get that?
As the project plan stated, right?
Okay.
I'll second. Oh, sorry, hold on. I'll second.
I have a motion to recommend for zone amendment for approximately 113 acres as was deemed in the new application, is that correct?
Project plan.
Project plan. And I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote on that? Commissioner Guardiola?
In light of the fact that I do not believe that it is in the best interest of the environment, nor does it create a sense of community that is defined as a group of individuals with a common interest and purpose, I vote nay.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Commissioner Morris?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. Okay, we are moving on to 3I, discuss moderate income housing. This is a whole nother one.
What are we going to do, yeah. What are we discussing there? That handout that,
Yeah, this
We
is part of the
started the
handout we
tree?
got 3 weeks ago,
okay.
and kind of discussing our direction on it, I think.
I was asked to give a report.
Oh, that's
Want me
right.
to do that now?
That's right, you are supposed to give a report.
Oh, yeah.
Would that be okay?
Do you want to go with that, or do you want to start first?
No, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Instead of trying to.
Is
And Pam, I'm
Commissioner
sure
Guardiola going to get a copy of that?
What'd you say now?
Is
Which,
Commissioner
I
Guardiola-
have several things in front of me. Can you tell me what the front
Did you
page
give
looks
her-
like?
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're just gonna have to cover it, so. It's a handout.
It's just a handout.
So you don't have this, Commissioner, I apologize for that.
Oh, she's not
Is there a
here,
way to
so.
get it?
Yeah, it's sitting on your, we can put it in your box. All I was asked to do was so that we wouldn't rework anything, was just what's been done in the last few years in the way of affordable housing. And rather than go through it all, I thought I'd just give it to you. So the first page is was what our housing goals and objectives were. Now, this was based on what the state was requiring at that time. Now we have a whole new list to choose from, but these were the ones that we picked that we felt would do it. Availability, provision of affordable housing, preservation of existing housing in neighborhoods, encourage affordable rental opportunities, and minimization of governmental constraints. So those were the 5 that we picked out of that list of 30 things that we're seeing now. And so then a committee was formed that met quarterly to discuss these things. The next page is the annual moderate income housing report. The last one I have, I don't think we had to do one in 2021, but did we?
No.
Okay, so
2022, we did one.
2022, we
No,
have to
last
do one.
year, 2021, we did a report at the end of the year.
Okay,
I
and
thought you
I,
had one in
And
the
now they've
notes.
come out with the new form for 2022.
right, and I had, at the end of the year, I was no longer the chairman, so I wasn't copied on that. But this is the one from the year before. And so each one of our strategies, we told how we achieved it. And most of that was done through the committee meeting and discussing and so forth. Like you can look at number 4, you know, creative, the strategy that we used was just our ad hoc committee. You know, the fact that we were meeting and trying. But everybody knows that towards the end of last year, with the introduction of the $7 stud, that I actually, my last meeting, there were just the two of us. And it was a lonely meeting. Everybody had pretty much given up, and why not? You know, there just wasn't cost of land, cost of things. So let's go to the last page, which is even older, 2019, but still pertinent. Median monthly household income in the state of Utah, Ivins area per month, estimated $6,264. And so if you look at this, 80%, they can afford a $1,503 housing cost per month. A 50% median, that would be a lower wage earner, $940 per month, and $628 per month for poverty level.
And when this was done in
This is 2019. Wages haven't gone up a bunch.
no, I actually
Everything
looked all
else-
this stuff, so I have the
Yeah,
synopsis.
everything else
currently.
has gone up, but wages haven't. Certainly not at the percentage of even inflation. So I happen to know the apartments across the street from me rent for $2,150 a month. They're 3-bedroom duplexes. I mean, it's untouchable. And so what the committee last year, we did what we could do, and what that was we celebrated the state coming down and saying that you could rent your basement 29 days with criteria. And we were able to get the city of Ivins, obviously, you know, they had to because the state came down on them and said it. And then also the committee worked very hard reaching out to the city council to get it to where you could 29-day rent your casita, even if it wasn't attached to your house. And that was our accomplishments. And it was low-hanging fruit, but it was significant because these places, like I said, the casita behind me rents for $550 a month, and that's affordable housing. That's what is it, poverty level almost. But anyway, that I was asked to give a report. That's my report.
I just emailed her that.
Oh, great, good. And so you can look over this, but that's what we did. But like once again, about 3/4 through the year, it got so insane with the cost of things and the disparity between what a man can earn, a single wage earner, and then the wife having to go to work. That's not optimum, you know, having to have 2 wage earners and children. That's not optimum for our community. And what to do about it, there's lots of fancy ideas that have come up, but for instance, the problem is like all those homes on 100 West that were built with sweat equity and things like that. Well, the owners got done with them and they had a low house payment, but then they came up and said, hey, you can sell your house for 3 times what you owe on it, and they sold out. And there went our affordable housing. So there's ideas that you know, some form of government would lease the land as opposed to do it. But these ideas are way above my capability of understanding or implementing it. And I put my best year in last year, and this year someone else gets to take over. That's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. So I did some looking up, and basically you're right. The income hasn't gone up. We're looking at a
median for Washington County, which is what we have to look at, is about $64,000 a year. When you break that into that basis of, 80% of that is basically $50,000 a year. So somebody making $50,000 a year, how do we get them into a house? How do we get them into something? So I did a quick look, just quickly pulled up on a couple of apps to look and see. Cheapest lot I found in Ivins for sale right now is $179,000. That's the cheapest.
Dirt.
That was dirt. That's dirt. That's not a house. That's dirt.
It's nuts. Dirt.
So when you talk about a $50,000 income, that puts you at, if you have zero debt, I mean talking zero debt, and all you're looking for is to buy a house, you can do a payment of about $1,700 a month. That's under FHA, and most common is $1,700 a month. Based on interest rates going up, that puts you somewhere between about $240,000 to $280,000. So I don't know where you can build a house for $100,000 on a $180,000 lot, especially after you get done paying fees and everything.
Unless we changed to canvas.
Yeah, well, you know.
Material canvas.
So this is bigger. This is a whole lot bigger than I even realized. I mean, I've been looking at this for years, long before I became a part of this. So how do you solve this? Because part of it's got to go back to land, because land is where a large portion of the cost is. In 9 months, I built a home just through the block here a year ago. 9 months after I started my house, my father-in-law bought the exact same lot, 4 lots up. He paid $60,000 more for his lot than I paid for mine. Same lot, same dimensions, same everything. So how do we do this? I know I have one grand giant plan, but it's bigger than I think a lot of us want to go into, but I'll tell you what that plan is, but we've got to look at the things that we can actually accomplish. My theory would be is to get back onto the annex board. That's not a board, I'm using an annex south of us in Ivins, all the way to the ridge. The only way you can do land at a cost that is, you get somebody that comes in and develops, 5 acres here, 10 acres here. There's not enough houses in that to adjust land prices. With a project that big, if we partnered with the BLM, which who owns most of that land, and made up a situation where the overall development was one development with lots of different areas, to where you could start closer to the highway at small, affordable housing, small lots, and then as you grow up to the ridge, they would increase. So technically speaking, the ones at the front would be money losers for the most part. But by the time you average the entire project together, they're making money because of the bigger lots that are up on the ridge that have the beautiful views and all that kind of stuff, and you just average that out. It would have to be done in agreement with BLM, it would have to be done with agreement with us, and of course a contractor that would be able to get involved with that. But that's what I see as a larger solution to the problem. But anyway, moving on. Any other comments?
What's changed in some subsidized housing in the last 5 or 6 years? I've been out of it now for about 6 years, 7 years. So we built in Pleasant View. We ended up working with HUD and bought some property on the Highway 89 and did something similar. We built a bunch of townhomes in there, and they were all subsidized homes. And we just about got run out of town on a rail because of everything around it was not subsidized and fairly affluent subdivisions. But it turned out that it turned out really well. Those homes have done well. They're not owned; they're rented and subsidized. But they've at least given some people some housing. The idea of being able to purchase a home and is even more daunting than just trying to get some subsidized rental.
Yeah, even when you're talking about $2,000 a month for your average rental, they can only afford 17.
Yeah.
So they're.
So
they
it's gotta be
can't-
subsidized
They
somehow.
can't, they
But-
can't.
And I've kind of lost track of what the government subsidies are. Or I don't know if anybody has looked into, did you guys look into HUD and stuff?
I have not.
We didn't, in our committee during that year, we focused on just the short, the 29-day rentals of affordable property that was already here.
Okay.
As opposed, but I do know that we were told that if we don't get these reports to where we can show we have the moderate income housing, that it will come in. It will
Yeah,
be
and
mandated on
it
us,
will,
and it will
and
be
that's
3
a
and
s-
4 stories tall, and, because you have to build up to be affordable
Right.
and those kind of things. So that's, only the threat was given to us, not,
Yeah, but it can be a pretty real threat, because there is some serious money from the state that, if you don't comply, you don't get.
Well, and then we're just back to that same situation where we have people who have a career such as an electrician that are in the $50,000-$60,000 a year
Yeah.
range, and I'm sure they do it with sending their wives to work, which is not optimum.
Teachers, I mean.
Well, and
we
kids
have
are
a-
out of school. I mean, we got grandkids that are living in basements, because
Right.
that's all they can afford.
And we can't, with the cost of fuel, it's not like you can find Vail or Enterprise, find something and then drive in. Now with the cost of fuel, that just takes all of the revenue that they have. And the sad thing is that interest rates are going up, and that will drive the value of the property down, but it's the banks that make the money. It's not the people, which has been, currently with low interest rates, it's been wonderful.
When you figure the largest employer in Washington, or it was, I think it still is Washington County School District. So it's teachers. And your teachers, your entry-level teachers are in that $40,000-$50,000 range, and it takes them years to get up into $80,000 or $90,000. You know what I mean? Years. So, yeah. So, Mike, what do we do?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Gardell.
I concur with the comments. What I'm referring to is I thought we were given an assignment to review strategies from the moderate income housing element of a general plan. And I'm wondering, do these possible strategies fit into this discussion? I'm looking in particular at item M, demonstrate creation of or participation in a community land trust program for moderate income housing. I don't know that this would be an answer,
That's kinda
but
what
do
you were
we
talking about.
start with discussion with some of these items that may help or at least give us a first step?
Yes, Commissioner, and actually obviously I've had that plan for a lot longer than this came up, but yes, it was from this that I decided to actually bring that plan forward and talk about it, because yes, I have looked at these and read these. So I think that's where we need to be, I think we need to go over these now. Is that what you would like to do?
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I was going to say is we're not going to fix the problem. The state wants us to find 3 things that helps with the solution. And so we may not ever be able to fix this problem, but 3 of these out of A through O are going to help. And so I think if we go through each commissioner, and if you guys did your homework, you get a shiny star. And I think it's good to go over those and see where your guys' preferences are on which direction we head.
You
and
said
then
3,
whittle
I
down.
got 10.
Okay, your top 10? Okay. We could whittle those down to your top 3 through discussion. So I think that's appropriate, and I think that's the direction we should go.
Mike, question? Out of those possibilities, Chuck initially went through and entered some comments on a spreadsheet. I did. Kate entered a couple that were applicable to his position. Have we forwarded that to the Planning Commission yet?
No, I have mine now written in hand.
Oh, okay.
We don't have parks yet, but for the next meeting, they will be done in time to put it on the agenda, so
Okay,
it's fully disclosed before the next meeting.
Good, I think that will help.
Yeah, and so
But, Mr.
staff is
Chair,
doing the same
Would that
thing.
be the next step, is to see that list before we go through what we're recommending tonight?
No, I think getting your guys' recommendation would be good, and then have staff and your recommendation combined, and then that could start the discussion in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Right,
Who did their homework? Who did their homework?
I did.
Man,
Hey.
do you guys all get an
Real
F?
answer.
Okay.
I move that we table this till the next meeting, when we have that information before us and can look at what the city thinks and not try to second guess what is gonna be affordable, what's realistic.
Yeah,
And you guys have looked at things in the past. You've had some progress of things that did and did not work well.
That
Those are
created all of this.
Yeah, I'm looking at
I-
the notes from the last couple of years. and-
Second it, and let's get
So I have a motion on the table. Do we want to second it or do we want to continue?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Then we have a motion to table this measure till next week when we can get the remainder of the city's input. And can I get a roll call vote on that? Commissioner Guardiola?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Commissioner Morse?
Aye.
And Commissioner Clifford?
Yeah,
And it's an aye from me. I think we did a big one there. Actually, we just kicked the football down the road is all we did. Okay, on to the next one. This is 3J, discuss short-term rentals, garage sizes, garage door heights, and RV toy parking, garbage collection, and driveway lengths. Oh, boy. I'm not gonna like this one.
okay. So you've already, if you've read Mike Scott's letter, that is the direction this has come from. Councilman Scott has asked Planning Commission to give a recommendation. So I think his thoughts are more towards getting rid of short-term rentals completely. What I've presented in front of you, that's also been added to the agenda, is maybe a different version where we get rid of short-term rentals in other zones other than resort. And so you wouldn't have a neighborhood that would have single-family dwellings, and the neighborhood next to it would be a short-term rental overlay. So we would get rid of the overlay and then make somewhat of a residential resort where those type of uses would be allowed. And then I also added the mixed use that would have no short-term rentals as part of this. And that goes into our land use conversation. But the future mixed-use zone would be separated away from resorts. So you could have a resort mixed use, or you could have a mixed use that's not in a resort area. So I just added that on there so you could see that we would have an option outside of the resort for other mixed use that may include some moderate housing options. So the three zones underneath resort that you could choose from would be resort residential, resort mixed use, and resort commercial.
Well, you want my opinion on this? I think we should let anybody in Ivins rent an Airbnb if they want to. But we put guidelines and rules around it, that it's licensed, and the city can govern that and pull money and funds off of it. But that's just me, because like we've already talked about, they're more well-maintained than the monthly rentals that are out there. But that's just me.
And the thing about an Airbnb rental in the city of Ivins is it needs to be owner occupied in a residential area.
That should be
The owner lives in the home. So if there's a raucous party going on,
You need a call.
you don't get a call, you hear it.
You're
You
already
understand
Oh,
what
I
I'm
see
saying?
what you mean, yeah.
Although the bedazzled handcuffs I found clipped to my bed. That was interesting. That was an interesting find. But
I don't wanna hear it.
we won't go there.
No, we're
Okay.
not going there.
But the point is that once again, affordable housing, we talk about affordable housing. The revenue that a young couple could make from having that business, which is a business. I mean, they got to wash sheets, they got to clean the room, they have to have a good presentation, it has to be entered from the house, it has to be inspected by the fire department, it has to off-street, all of those requirements met. But the revenue that a young couple can get from that gets them home ownership without having to sell a kidney. And so I just don't see anything wrong. I mean, none of my neighbors have ever come up and said, in fact, my next door neighbor was a licensed Airbnb. I never noticed anything. I mean, it was never any noise. There was never any problem. I'm just against this is all just anti-growth stuff.
And that's completely up to you if that's the direction you want to go on the recommendation. If you read through Councilman Scott's letter, he brings up a bunch of problems with Airbnbs, like parking, where toys are stored. So if you have a neighborhood that's all short-term rental overlay, there's nothing in the ordinance that requires them to do parking that's appropriate for that type of use. So if you're right, and if that's the direction you want to go, let's go through detail by detail of the short-term rental overlay district and go to the parking chapter, add parking requirements for it, add. So maybe the recommendation could be for the first 1,000 square feet, you need 2 stalls, and then for every stall afterwards, or 1 stall for every 1,000 square foot after. You know, if we look at those if you want to keep the overlay district and these short terms in neighborhoods, then I think a comprehensive ordinance change would be also appropriate to recommend.
I know in my last neighborhood, there was 4 houses that were being rented as short-term rentals, and I could have cared less. They never raised a problem. I never worried about it, but the city wasn't gaining any revenue off of it, and that's the ridiculous part, because if the city...
License, you have to have a license for it.
Yeah.
I would like to, I would not like to see us get rid of this. I think it has been kind of a cottage industry that's grown in communities, and I think you get less issues for the short-term rentals that are in family community subdivisions than you do where you get a whole block of Arcadia. Yeah, I mean, where they're all the short-term, and that's all it is short-term rental, because the only people there are the people that are coming for a party. And so this idea of owner-occupied, I think it should be a requirement, I think, for these in residential areas. And these people keep better care of them because they have to be clean, they can't leave stuff out. So we just need to put some rules down. Like trash cans was one that Mike got onto, and I've got 2 grandkids that are basically doing the same you're talking about. They're living on the short-term rental business while they're going to college. They live there in the home, and they rent the basement.
So there's different examples out there, like Hurricane has X amount of permits, and if you're on the list, you get it, you know.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I think what you're talking are 2 different things. When you have a whole neighborhood that's short-term rental, there's 30 or 40 houses in there, and there's toys and that kind of stuff. Another neighborhood in Hurricane has one across the street from an apartment complex. Those toys are parking, so you can't drive the road. And so if you want to apply certain rules to a neighborhood, I think what you're talking about, individuals, would be another license that's outside of a neighborhood that somebody could rent out a casita, but they're not going to have the neighborhood problems. It's just 1 unit. And it sounds like what Commissioner Morris is talking about.
And I think
So-
That's what we're talking about. It's not, I mean, they're in our kids' situation, they're the only ones on the block, or 2 or 3 blocks that are an overnight rental. But, if you have a whole street full of them, then that's an apartment complex for, I mean, it's a motel. All right.
Maybe Dell wants to
And when
comment
we-
on this, but I don't know if you could say that there could only be 3 per block. You know, I think that would be a bad road to go down because you're
I don't
you're
think
actually
many
making
people
this.
will want to if
It, you have, it has to fit. I mean, you can't just turn your house into one. I had a granny's room. You know, that's the only reason I was able to do it. I'd already set up a room for my dad to live his last days in. You know what I'm saying? And that's the room that I mean, it's not just like you can have someone, hey, come on into my bathroom, we'll share the
people stay in the
bathroom, we'll share the kitchen, you know, I have a kitchenette. I mean, it takes some effort to do there. So it's not gonna be, my neighbor quit doing it. They just got tired of bad reviews or, you know, fussy. It's a business. It's everybody would be in business if it was that easy and just money making and all that to it, but it takes effort. It's not something that would be free. And furthermore, maybe the last thing I can accomplish before I retire on this next March is no street parking, period. 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., no parking on the street, just
Yeah, you have to have
block.
parking.
You can get a pass for your from the police department for a one-night thing. Let's take a whole year before we enforce it completely, but let's get these cars off the street.
Well, I'm not sure if that's exactly a zoning question, though.
No, I know it's not a zoning question. That would be a
it's more
city council
would have to
law,
look at
yeah.
that. Whereas we plan for, on the zoning side, how many stalls are required for that use?
Right, and we already have that, though. I mean, we already say if you pull up in an RV and it can't be parked off the street, it's already an illegal application of a short-term rental.
Now, as far as short-term rentals goes, now my understanding is you can have an RV parked in front of your home for 48 hours? For something like that, for loading and unloading before or after a trip.
Which
That
isn't
used to
it-
be the rule here. I don't know if that still
And
is.
these are the kind of things that, when it's not enforced, it's not enforced. I mean, that's the problem. It's only spot enforced. They only enforce it when someone complains. You see, and that's the approach. And then that gets people going, well, he's doing it. Why can't I do it? You know, and that becomes the issue. I like equal. I like, if we're gonna make a rule, I would like everybody to keep it. That's the ultimate
Well, and I think this
desire.
is also
Mr.
about
Chair?
property rights as well. Yes, Commissioner Gargiel.
I want to go back to something I heard Commissioner Clifford mentioned. I have lived in an area where there were these kinds of uses, and they were in homes that were either second homes for people, and so the owners were not there. And so there were other activities that occurred because there was no one to oversee them. So if we do allow this, it should require an owner-occupied license. The question there is, how do we enforce it?
Well, they have to have a license, or they're not legal, and
Yeah, the
and you have to
fines.
have a
It's already done.
authorization from the city.
That's already done. That's in place. Everything.
Right, getting the
is in place.
license, yes, but, well, yes, if it
And
is
to get the license,
owner-occupied,
the requirements
question
are you
is,
have to have the
are
parking.
they
You have
really?
to fire alarm, fire department inspection, it's already in place.
So what it sounds like is, yes, still get rid of the STR overlay, but give a licensing for these. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's,
But can we do that? Can we license it? Because that came up.
Well, before I answer that completely, I have a question for Adele Murphy. You guys have said, well, this is a business. Well, if it was residential resort, is it gonna be taxed as a business, as commercial? So isn't that really,
but you can have in-home businesses, can't you?
Yes.
Anywhere.
Yeah,
yeah.
Small in-home businesses,
100 square feet.
as long as you license
And
it.
I'll have to look that up to see if it meets the definition of an in-home
Yeah.
business, as opposed to an accessory dwelling unit, type of thing. But I'll have to look at that a little further.
Usually business licensing is done, if there's an impact on the community, that's when you can look at business licensing. but the state has tried to do away with most in-home, licensing most in-home uses. And so if there's no impact on the community, you don't know that it's there. So I get very few calls complaining about in-home businesses because you really don't know that they're there. Other places, I have gotten complaints, but not here locally in Ivins. So I don't really think that there's a problem with in-home businesses in itself, but I think short-term rentals is a little bit more impactful on a neighborhood than somebody working in their office instead of telecommuting to work. So
I mean, I had to send a letter to everybody within so many feet of where I was operating this. I had to come down to the planning commission and get approved by the planning commission for my short-term rental license. I mean, there was a process, and I heard that's what went away, right? A bed and breakfast.
You had a
That's what
B&B,
it is.
yeah, that was different.
That's different than what? Overnight?
Bed and overnight rental, yeah.
Oh, is it?
A B&B is an actual business, and
Yeah, it's a business name that we've
so
injected.
I think the merging of the two is maybe what we need to look
Yeah,
at,
I mean, I
because
think-
the B&Bs have morphed into overnight rentals now.
That's all they are.
And that's all
I don't
they are
serve
for the
breakfast.
most part. Wow, give them a cracker or something in the morning.
So I'm supposed to be feeding them breakfast? Oh,
I think
there
you're
goes the
right.
profit.
I think
Your
the,
reviews
might go up if you do.
Or down, one of the two.
The theory here, because we use Airbnb as kind of
I'll charge more
a
if they don't have
generic
to eat my
term,
feed.
and it's actually, we're meaning nightly rentals when we say that term. Airbnb is actually a corporate name.
That's right.
So we're actually kind of using them interchangeably, and we shouldn't. It's nightly rentals. But nevertheless, yes, that's my opinion. I feel like that's probably some of our opinions that that we would rather have it go the other way. I would rather see it as a licensed, and like I say, Dale needs to look into that, as a licensed thing that you can do within the city, and being licensed. And if you're not licensed and you're doing it and you get caught, there's fines. There's repercussions for that, you know, and that kind of thing. But then everybody's on board, and then the city is making a revenue off of that. And it's not much. I mean, you know what I mean, comparison, but at least they're still making a revenue off of that as well.
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks, if we were to have another discussion on this, you guys are preferring us to remove the short-term rental overlay and send it up to city council as your recommendation that it's done under licensing rather than zoning.
I think that fits about right, doesn't it? That's what I say.
I think-
What you're seeing?
Pardon?
Is that what you're hearing? I mean,
Yeah, I think it'd be better on an individual basis with licensing versus just saying there's an overlay and everybody inside can do it. I mean, if you want it controlled, you have to control it. And right now, I don't think it's under control because we don't even know probably how many we have because, again, they don't have to report the city. Pro is going through it. Utah County went through the same thing, and they are now putting the screws down on people to make sure everybody's licensed, everybody's going through a reputable booking agency, et cetera, et cetera. They're turning it into a business. And what we should do.
Commissioner Guardial, you haven't commented on this. I just wanted your comment on this. I have a feeling you don't agree with us, but I want to make sure.
well, 'cause they're-
I
they're
look
trying to stop
forward
that
to what we
development.
will do at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
So another question would be, do you want to put things in the zoning ordinance that the business licensing would refer to? Like a spot in the table of uses that list, okay, if you have a short-term rental, the parking requirements are this.
Yeah, I think that would probably,
Yeah, there's one.
Or does
one
that
other thing-
confuse the subject a little bit too much?
One other thing we need to fully remember, though, is that HOAs can still trump all this stuff.
Right.
If they decide no of this going on in our HOA, right?
And that's fine.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I think there will be some things we need to do in that as far as that's concerned, like you say with parking. So there may be some things there we need to look at, but yes.
Dale turned on his mic. Say it.
I was just saying, as far as the licensing aspect is concerned, you can control that as far as what is a short-term rental with a definition in that section of or part of the code, but if you get into parking and all those issues, then you may want to keep it in zoning. But, so I think at the minimum, our short-term rental overlay needs an overhaul, needs a relook, and see if do we want it to overlay a whole area? And right now, there's two different design requirements. So there was a project, a multifamily project that was approved that had an overlay, and I got called on a question saying, well, so can they do short-term rentals? Well, yeah, technically they have the zoning for it, so they're vested in it, but they're gonna have to fish and cut bait here pretty quick. Because once they select what design guidelines they go by, they've chosen it. They can't design it and build it as a non-short-term rental overlay and then say, oh, we're gonna rent these overnight, but guess what? We didn't comply with the design guidelines that were required.
Yeah.
No, so I think then they would lose the overlay. So I think we need to look at some things in that ordinance and at least fine tune it. Because it's been a while and in fact, a couple of years ago, I tried to take a look at a lot of the overlays, but we got stuck on subdivision enhancement overlay, and so none of them ever passed. So I'm in favor of doing a relook of the overlay itself.
So I'm not sure if it's gonna be done in 2 weeks, maybe in 4 weeks.
Okay.
We'll bring it back, give us some time as staff to present a recommendation to you. But it sounds like you want this for individuals, not for neighborhoods.
Yeah, open for the individuals to use this.
Yeah.
And do it by,
With all restrictions.
Yeah. And the HOAs will,
the HOAs have their rules to be able to,
They can override it.
yep, okay.
Okay.
I got your direction and we'll start working on it.
Great.
All right, moving on to 3K. We don't need any other, motion or anything on that, correct? Okay. Moving on to 3K. Wow, here we go. Discuss, consider approval of the Ivins City Planning Commission minutes for May 17th, 2022, May 31st, 2022, and June 14th, 2022. Do we need to do them individually or just all as one?
We wouldn't have 3 if you'd have listened to me last time.
Okay.
I was the nay.
I did see Commissioner Guardiola had some corrections. I did review those. I didn't see anything else.
If they're minor corrections, then they can just be submitted to Sharon.
We already did it. That's how we saw.
So I'm good with how they are. Are we all good? So do you want to do them?
I will move.
Okay.
Then that we will approve the Ivins City Planning Commission minutes
Your mic.
as modified. Oh. Okay, anyway, as modified for May 17th, May 31st, and June 14th, 2022.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the minutes for May 17th, May 31st, and May 14th from Commissioner Clifford and a second by Commissioner Larson. Can I get a all unanimous or all not unanimous on that one? Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Guardiola?
Aye.
Okay, I didn't hear yours, I'm sorry. Okay, reports. Planning Commission, you already gave yours.
I gave mine, thank you.
Anybody else have a report? Okay. I do not have anything tonight. I think I spoke enough. Building and zoning, Mike, anything else?
I think we've talked about everything that I need to bring forward.
Okay.
So, yep, I've got my marching orders, so thank you.
Okay. Dale? Okay. Anything to be placed on future agendas from anybody? Okay, we're to 5.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion to adjourn in a couple of seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good meeting, guys.